Good morning. So this is another proposal in a similar vein as the one we just saw from Joe, dealing with some jurisdictional issues. So the problem that this is trying to get at is that organizations that are not incorporated within the ARIN region, but that still have a substantial nexus to the region, are unable to receive resources from ARIN. So say you have a large U.S. company that is looking to offer services outside of the ARIN region, and the country that they want to offer services in requires an in-country legal entity to hold their assets and to hold the ASN that's used for peering. So this large U.S. company has to start up another legal entity out of the region, and they want to still work with ARIN. They want to use ARIN to set up an ARIN org ID, to receive an ARIN ASN, and they want to be able to reassign space from their parent company, related company within the ARIN region, to this out-of-region organization. Currently, that is not something that they can do. So to accomplish this, we added a little bit of text to Section 9 of NERPM, saying that legal entities can demonstrate a substantial connection to the ARIN service region without necessarily being incorporated within the ARIN service region. So we sent this to staff and legal, and it came back with some serious legal concerns. This policy proposal would open ARIN up to the necessity of serving legal papers and dealing with litigation in foreign legal forums. This could be a problem because those foreign legal forums might not be committed to the rule of law. They might be hostile to foreign business interests, and the legal systems might be expensive or unresponsive. Another issue is it substantially reduces ARIN's ability to know its customers. ARIN's general counsel advised against adoption unless ARIN has a clear and pressing need to fulfill its mission by adopting this policy. So I'm here to ask the community, do we have that need? Do we see this as being a real problem that actually exists? And do we think that it's something that we need to address for ARIN to fulfill its mission?
Front center microphone.
Chris Tassett, Tassett Law, ARIN AC. So this is one that does have the big, bold warning, so I get it. I guess what I'm trying to understand, so I'm not an expert in U.S. law. I know in Canada, though, that merely not being incorporated doesn't insulate you from being sued in Canada. There are other connection to the jurisdiction tests, which actually seem to be captured by a lot of the factors in Section 9 anyway. So I'm wondering if this problem couldn't be solved by the practical aspect that an out-of-region transfer wouldn't be allowed anyway unless it met a significant number of these bullets, coupled with perhaps a requirement for the entity, even if it's foreign, to bind itself to provide address for an agent for service within the ARIN jurisdiction. I'm wondering if, because clearly somebody thinks there's a need for this policy or it wouldn't have come up. So is there a creative way to deal with this to solve the legal concern? I guess that's my question.
John?
So, in theory, one could create a tapestry of mechanisms. The countries you're willing to deal with, the need for a registered agent, the requirement not to deal with certain countries, even with an agent because of compliance with U.S. law, the requirements to address where we could be litigated from, and then considering the fact that board members travel to countries, whether you can be litigated or not doesn't mean you can't be served because you could have a board member present. Nothing like having a board member travel, receive notice while they're on the road that they're being served. So could we put together a tapestry to address this? Yes. If there's strong demand in the community for this policy, then that's something that the AC would reflect and would go to the board, and the board would consider all aspects of that with legal guidance. We know this is a policy whose implementation could create a significant amount of assessment of legal work about the value involved. And at the end of the day, it's not to say that it's not a possible policy to have. Right. It's just the AC may easily see this policy come back from the board saying, please explain the near and present problem that this policy is solving, given the amount of work. The board has the right to send something back to the AC and ask, do you really want this? Because this is what it's driving in the implementation of policy.
Right.
That's all you're seeing there.
Okay, so maybe in light of that, I could ask you folks to consider taking a poll about whether people want to see us continue working on this
Quite a possibility.
because that would at least give an indication of whether there is any significant demand for this.
I heard there was interest in taking that poll anyway.
Perhaps.
Perhaps, okay.
Thank you.
Front and center microphone again.
David Farmer, University of Minnesota, ARIN-AC. I oppose this policy. Just to clarify one thing that Chris mentioned, transfers. This has nothing to do with transfers. There's a whole series of policies sort of looking at this problem from different angles, and this angle concerns me greatly. And I don't think, unless there's some people that want to get up to the mics and say they really, really, really need this, I don't see us doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Far microphone.
Kevin Bloomberg, The Wire. I oppose the policy. ARIN's been around 20 plus years now. Organizations that needed space had set up something, they did something. To say you have a substantial presence in the ARIN region, but no company in the ARIN region seems counterintuitive and kind of silly. If we want to do that, call it what it is, allow it, do it completely differently, whatever it may be, but this just does not seem a realistic, actual thing that needs to be done. We've got a lot of other things that need to be looked at, and for something that hasn't happened in 20 plus years, and nobody here actually saying that it's going to affect them, I see no point in continuing with this kind of policy.
Thank you, Kevin. Rear microphone. Last call for the queues at the same time. Join the queues now if you intend to.
Owen DeLong, ARIN-AC. I'm going to echo what Kevin said, which is a rarity. If there is, excuse me, if there is somebody in the room who has need for this policy or something like it, please, I implore you to speak up, because absent some clear expression of need and some example of an actual case where this actually applies, I think we should kick it to the curb. It's a Pandora's box of legal issues, and unless there's some real benefit and some real need that somebody can express, I think it addresses a possible but not necessarily actual corner case that doesn't come up very, very often. I don't know of any countries that require the ASN to be registered to a company in country in order to do peering in that country that actually have a peering fabric in the country that is substantial. So if anybody's got a case like that, I'd love to hear about it so that we can actually look at this in a more meaningful way. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Rear microphone again.
Mike Burns from IP Trading. I come at this a little bit differently, echoing what Owen said about certain countries requiring local ownership of ASNs and registrations. And that does exist, and we've seen that. And I am just generally against these national laws that impact the internet, the fabric of the internet, how it's routed. I'm just against those in general, and I don't think ARIN should really take this pretty large step to compensate for those kinds of laws. And by not taking the step, any pressure that could be brought to bear on these countries that are passing these laws would retain itself in place. So I'm against the policy. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Closing the comments then. Amy has asked me to ask a question of the community and those in the room and remote. And that question is, do you believe there's a problem here that needs to be solved? So ponder that for a couple seconds while the counters collect themselves for something they weren't expecting to count.
So to be clear, we're going to ask all those who believe there's a problem to be solved, aye.
in
And all
favor.
those, and then all who
Correct.
do not, nay.
Correct.
Okay.
So, all right. Please raise your hand or indicate your support online if you believe there is a real problem here that needs to be solved. All right, and if you do not believe that there is a problem here that needs to be solved, please raise your hand or indicate such online. I don't suppose you've prepared yourself with any dies tes mortis days, have you, John? All right. No jokes? Okay.
I got nothing.
All right. All right, hands can come down now.
Why'd the headless horseman go to college?
Why, John?
He wanted to get ahead. Even I think that's horrible.
You know, it's a question of do we prefer silence or pain? I mean, I guess I'm choosing pain over silence. All right, total in person and in the room, 81. Those who believe there is a problem here that needs to be solved, 0. Those who believe there is not a problem to be solved, 19. Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy. Round of applause for Amy.